Things have been going bad for Disney and Lucasfilm in the last couple of years with a lot of their Star Wars properties failing to catch on with audiences. But I think this kind of came to a head with the Acolyte because this was something that they were obviously sure that was going to be a hit, but it turned out to be a flop for them. And I'm saying that they were probably sure it was going to be a hit because they spent nearly $200 million to produce it. And then it come to find out this was one of the most universally despised Star Wars property to date. And I know there's going to be some few Star Wars Acolyte fans out there who are maintaining that the show was good. And if you like the show, fine, you're allowed to like it. But just understand the vast majority of Star Wars fans didn't actually like the show, which is why it got the lowest score for any Star Wars property on Rotten Tomatoes, or should I say Disney Star Wars property on Rotten Tomatoes. And the viewership for it was so poor that Disney actually announced that they were canceling it as opposed to just trying to quietly let it die off and fade into obscurity, which is what they tend to do. They don't like to announce that they messed up and are canceling something. They prefer just to say like, oh yeah, it's up in the air and we're not going to renew it or some other garbage like that. But I think with the Acolyte failing, they were starting to kind of reevaluating some of the other things that they've previously okayed, because when you see something fail in this spectacular of a manner, especially considering how much they spent on it, they're probably thinking like, well, maybe we don't actually have the right idea after all, as opposed to what the audience wants. So maybe we should start looking at some of the previous stuff that we've okayed and examine whether we should continue on with it or not. And that's where we're getting some of these latest rumors about the upcoming Rey movie for Lucasfilm, because right now it's looking like, or at least according to these rumors going around, that Disney may actually be pulling the plug on this one as well. Star Wars, The New Jedi Order, now on hold at Lucasfilm. And this is coming from World of Real. Back in June, there was some rumors spreading that Lucasfilm Rey movie, potentially titled New Jedi Order, was going to be shooting in September. I shot down those rumors by simply saying no chance. Here's what I had written, and this is what it says right here. If only I could tell you what I've been hearing when it comes to the behind the scenes drama with the project. I swore not to say anything, and it's killing me to not write about it, but I'm fairly certain some of it will eventually come out. And obviously they haven't started shooting this film, which is when they were saying that it was going to happen at the start of this month. But now it's looking like the idea that they're going to be shooting it might be on hold almost indefinitely. Daniel Reichman is now reporting what I've been saying all along. Forget about it. The film has a lot more work to be done and now on hold over at Lucasfilm. The earliest it would shoot is in 2025, and I'm pretty skeptical about that. In fact, I think the entire project will just get scrapped. And this type of thing wouldn't necessarily be unusual for Disney because they kind of have a bad habit of announcing projects for Star Wars that they never follow through with. In fact, Disney has announced more Star Wars projects than they've actually produced. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that many studios, when they're going to announce something, it's because they already have the ball rolling on it. They either have a script done, the script's being worked on, they have some pre-production stuff going in place. So they really know that this is something that we're going to do. With Disney and Star Wars, I think what they've been doing is they're having these discussions behind the scenes. Maybe they have a few meetings with a director or some other type of creative, a showrunner, and they're getting ideas from them. And then when they're doing those meetings, and then they'll announce it to the public, like, this is something that we're going to be doing. And there's no contract signed or anything like that. It's just them talking behind the scenes about doing this. And then Kathleen Kennedy kind of jumps the gun and decides to announce it publicly. Some people think that's what she did with the Acolyte, or at least some people think that she leaked the Acolyte was going to be released before Disney was prepared to pull the trigger on it, because she wasn't confident that the higher ups at Disney would okay it. So by leaking it to the public that they're going to be doing a female centric Star Wars show with a female showrunner, it kind of puts pressure on Disney to follow through with it, as opposed to being the ones who are pulling the plug on female Star Wars stuff like that. So I don't know if that's the case. I'm just saying those are the rumors that were going around with that. And we saw it was disastrous results. But when it comes to the Rey movie, a lot of people were thinking this is something that a lot of the higher ups at Disney might not have been confident in it, especially after we saw how the Acolyte failed to capture audiences. Maybe they're thinking, do we really want to have another trilogy focused around Rey when a large section of the audience didn't really care for the character? So presumably, if you spend a lot of money on a Rey trilogy, well, then it's just going to be money lost for them. What I can say is that Stephen Knight has been trying to crack the script now for well over a year. A final draft still hasn't been submitted to Lucasfilm. Knight, who was about to shoot his Peaky Blinders movie, has written a total of 4 drafts with Lucasfilm's Kathleen Kennedy, continuously giving him notes on how to improve the story. And this is another thing too, because like I said, they announced a Rey movie and they don't even have a script for it done already. Maybe Stephen Knight was already working on it when they announced it, but I can see someone like him kind of getting discouraged if he keeps submitting a script and they keep kicking it back to him with revisions. Eventually I can see the case where he's just going to be like, okay, I just stopped caring about this anymore. I got other stuff I want to do. So maybe I'll just go and work on that stuff instead. And then if they want to continue on with Star Wars, they'll have to hire another writer to do that. If they do continue with the Rey movie, I think that's probably the path they'll go. They'll just use the outline that Stephen Knight created and then just bring in someone else to fix the script for Kathleen Kennedy or make the script that Kathleen Kennedy wants to make, because there's other stuff going around about Stephen Knight and how he's kind of pushing the whole Star Wars thing on the back burner and focusing on his own personal projects. And I'll get more on that in a moment, but first let's continue on with this article. There's also another issue. Disney might be second guessing the entire nature of the project. Will they or won't they allow this film to move forward? Do we really need another Rey movie? Plot details have been kept fairly hush-hush, but based on what I've heard, the film would focus on Rey's tutelage at an academy of up-and-coming Jedis. And despite pretty much everything failing in the last few years for Star Wars, most notably The Acolyte, Kathleen Kennedy maintains that she doesn't want to change the course for the vision that she set out for when she became president of Lucasfilm. Now, mind you, this is coming at a time when many other Disney studios are starting to recognize if they want to turn a profit, then they need to actually go back and make stuff that the audience wanted. Notably, a few months ago, there was rumors going around that there was a lot of layoffs over at Marvel Studios because Kevin Feige kind of wants to change course for what they did in the last phase of the MCU and kind of go back to basically giving people what they want. And the first big movie that they had released afterwards is Deadpool and Wolverine. Now, that was something that was already in the pipeline, so we'll have to see what their new things, such as Fantastic Four, if those are actually going to follow suit, or if it's just going to be more of what we see in the last couple of years. And then also recently we heard from Pixar that they deliberately went to effort to make sure it wasn't political. There was early indicators that Riley may have been a gay character in that. So they went back through and edited out any connotation of that. So whenever people are watching it, they can't infer that because they don't want to actually do anything that pushes a political message. They just want to go back to entertaining audiences because they understand that's ultimately what's profitable. And they blamed the political nature of all that stuff on the reason why Lightyear ultimately failed at the box office, along with some of their other major movies these last couple of years. But when it comes to Star Wars, Kathleen Kennedy is still like, nope, I want to do this. This is my studio, so I'm going to run it however I want it. Whether it's actually profitable or not remains to be seen. I can see Kathleen Kennedy actually wanting to continue on with the Rey movie, but it seems like there might be a lot of other people at Disney who want to ultimately just shelve it. But kind of going back to the whole things about Stephen Knight, about how he might not be interested in continuing to work on it. This article came out from That Park Place this last week. Star Wars Rey movie writer announced plan to open new studio in Los Angeles. Speculation grows that the Star Wars film could be scrapped. And this is kind of going back to what I was saying is he might have sincerely been interested in working on a Star Wars movie or writing a Star Wars movie for them. But after a lot of time, he just gets discouraged because he doesn't like what Kathleen Kennedy's trying to do. He's probably trying to do something that the audience will actually be interested in writing, but Kathleen Kennedy still has her own narrative that she's trying to push with this. So she keeps rejecting it. I can see him maybe trying to work around that, try to stick with his vision of it, but still trying to appease her, but she doesn't like it. It's almost like if she said like, you know, the whole put a chick in it, make her lame and gay. He's like, okay, I'm going to put a gay chick in it, but I'm going to try to make her more interesting in this way and stuff like that. And Kathleen Kennedy's like, no, she has to be lame too. Okay, I'll make her a little lame. No, she has to be more lame, like a character that no one could actually, I'm not saying that this is what she's actually saying, but you kind of get the idea that maybe Kathleen Kennedy's notes aren't the best one for it because she's an executive. She's not a writer. The writer is trying to appease her, but at the same time, there's only so much back and forth before he's like, you know what, forget it. I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to go open my own studio. I got my own projects that I need to work on. come find me if you want to continue on with this. Otherwise, you got the script I wrote, so you can do that if what you will. And like I said, I think they're probably going to hold this for a while and maybe try to work on some other things with Star Wars. Maybe try to refill their coffers because they lost quite a bit on the Acolyte. And then maybe they'll revisit Rey down the road with something else, or maybe they're just going to put it on the back burner for a while and then eventually just kind of come back to it and be like, oh yeah, we decided we're not going to do that after all. I don't think they're going to make a big announcement that they're pulling the plug on a Rey movie. I think this is really what we're going to get when it comes to that, is just rumors that they're going to be shelving it for a while, and then eventually it's just a movie that never materialized. It's pretty rare for them to say that we're going to cancel something. Like, that's why it was such a shock for the Acolyte when they actually announced it, because that's them admitting failure, and that's something that Disney and Lucasfilm does not like to do. But let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. Do you think they're going to ultimately pull the plug on the Rey movie, or do you think Kathleen Kennedy is going to make them actually continue on with it? Comment below on this, and if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with the latest entertainment news. And don't forget to click that like button and share this video out there because it really helps out with the channel. Thank you.